Hi, I'm Matt McQuinley, and I've had leadership positions since I was about 12 years old. Starting out with the Boy Scouts, then in high school as captain of the swim team, in military university, and in the workplace as a branch, district, division, and then national sales manager. I was also director of my own international manufacturing and retail business for almost 20 years. I'd like to share with you 3 quick keys to leadership using 3 historical figures as examples in this quick video. The first historical figure I'd like to talk about is Ulysses S. Grant. In May of 1864, after more than 3 years of bloody civil war that pitted friend against friend, neighbor against neighbor, brother against brother, father against son, Ulysses S. Grant became the commander of the main Union Army, the Army of the Potomac. This army had been beaten in battle after battle, or at least fought to a standstill by the much smaller, less equipped, but better led Southern Army. As a result, Ulysses S. Grant became its 6th commander in less than 3 years. Under his leadership, the Union Army began to win. Let's talk about just one of the things that he put in place to make sure that his army was successful. Back in those days, there were no telecommunications on the battlefield, no phones, no radios. All his orders had to be written down or verbally given to what was called a runner, a soldier who would run through the battle to one of his commanders and personally give the message to him. Oftentimes, orders would be misunderstood with disastrous consequences. What Grant did that was different is that he would write down the order. Then he would pick at random one of the least educated privates he could find and have him read the order back to him and explain what it meant. If the private could not explain the order clearly and exactly as Grant intended, he'd rewrite the order and would start the process again with another private. So our first key to leadership is simple, clear communication with your staff in regards to expectations. This isn't only important because you need tasks to be carried out correctly. I can't tell you how many employees and contractors I've spoken to who are demoralized because they just don't understand or know what's expected of them. We all know as business owners or as leaders in any organization that right now the old adage, good people are hard to find and keep, is even more true than ever. The second point I'd like to make, I'm going to use it as an example, George Patton. He was an American general for the Allies in Europe during World War II. His Third Army, which was between 250 and 300,000 men at any given time, killed, captured, or wounded 1.8 million German soldiers. He captured 211,000 square kilometers of land and liberated over 12,000 cities and towns. He's credited with liberating the most cities and towns in history. One story I'd like to share with you about Patton gives you a glimpse into why this man was so successful and why his men followed him so proudly. There's a story that once Dwight David Eisenhower, his commander, the commanding general of all Allied forces in Europe in World War II, decided to put a brigadier general on Patton's staff. Patton did not like this man. He thought this general was subpar and would probably make mistakes which would cost men their lives and hamper the war effort. Patton fought tooth and nail not to have this guy put on his staff. Patton, of course, lost. Eisenhower put him on his staff. And this brigadier indeed did make a mistake that cost men their lives and thus hurt the Allies' war efforts. Eisenhower was absolutely furious and was going to pull the brigadier out of Europe and send him back to the United States in disgrace. But Patton would have none of it. He told Ike it was his staff and he could not remove him. He argued and argued and argued with Eisenhower. Finally, Eisenhower said, "George, why are you fighting me on this? You didn't even want this guy on your staff in the first place." Patton merely shrugged and said, "You're right, I didn't. But back then, he wasn't my guy." Imagine that. Imagine what staff would do if they knew that their leader had their back like that. What would you do? What would the morale of your organization or any organization be like if the leader had that attitude? I think you know. So the second key is this: have their backs. Now, the last leader we're going to talk about briefly is Mahatma Gandhi. Of course, he is known for his nonviolence and civil disobedience, which led to vast improvements in the Indian people's civil rights, as well as India's independence from the British Empire. There's a story about Mahatma Gandhi where, after he had already become famous, one of his distant relatives, who was a mother, came to him for help with her son. The mother asked him to tell her son to stop eating sugar. He was having trouble with his teeth and his health. The mother then brought the boy before Gandhi, and Gandhi said, "You should listen to your mother in all matters." Well, the mother wasn't happy with that. After the boy went off to play and they were alone, she said, "I told you to tell him to stop eating sugar." Gandhi said, "Come back in a month." Well, the boy came back before him again in a month, and Gandhi said, "Stop eating sugar. It's bad for your health and your teeth." After that, the boy went away to play again. And the mother said, "Why didn't you do that a month ago?" Gandhi replied, "A month ago, I was eating sugar." Why do we not trust our leaders now? Why are we demoralized now? Why don't we believe politicians now? There are a few reasons, but one of the biggest is they do not lead by example. They say one thing, they do another. They say wear a mask, but then there are photos of them at a party without one. They say stay home, and then there's another photo with them in Miami on vacation. They say pay your taxes, and then they get done for tax fraud. They say I'm a family man. Then you find out they've got 15 other girlfriends. There's a lot to be said for a leader who leads by example, or at least is not a hypocrite. People will forgive leaders for mistakes, but nothing crushes morale more than hypocrisy, or a leader who doesn't walk the walk, but talks the talk. On the other hand, a leader who does what he expects of his team is respected, followed, and sometimes even loved. If you like this little snippet on leadership, you can learn more anywhere you download podcasts. On my podcast, Change the World with Matt McQuinley, which is an 8-part series on leadership done by myself and performance coach Gwen Meyer, or you can contact me personally any way you choose at the end of this video.